Nikon's caused a bit of a stir with the announcement of their new 50mm 1.8G twice, quite simply because they've announced it twice. The first time was completely accidental when they prematurely uploaded a webpage for this new lens on their official website, and the second time was official. But the question is, what has changed with the 1.8G? It's not really right to complain about the old 1.8D, quite simply because it's as cheap as chips. But that doesn't mean it's got soggy and limp performance. On the outside it looks unassuming, to a degree where it looks more like some kind of teleconverter or accessory rather than a lens. It's a cheap lens, and that's no surprise when you pick it up.
Look at her bag, it's great. I want one of those. She's got an EOS shopping bag. It's great. Oh. Now this thing is really light, and it feels kind of weird when you put on a D700 body. I think there's some obese ant which are heavier than this thing. What do you do on a sunny day like this? Cut your toenails on the street, obviously. The thing is, this is so light because the plastics used for this is so cheap and tacky. It's like they got the plastics from some cheap Chinese factory that makes remote controls for cheap Chinese tellies. And according to Jackie Chan, they're all going to explode. The motor on this thing sounds, well, it's pretty noisy. It's kind of like a constipated Aibo robot dog.
But a lot of people put up with this defecating mechanical dog because you can get some amazing sharp performance from this nifty 50.
Check out those sideburns. Elvis is not dead. He's there. The thing is, this lens is just so enjoyable to use. It makes you want to shoot more and more. Even though it looks weird on D700, it's kind of like wearing a suit with trainers on. Backstreet Boys back. Backstreet pensioners back. Let's get some pussy. Pussy action. Oh, it's a construction cat. Construction worker cat. Locke is a cat expert apparently, and he says this cat's going for a shit. Yeah, dog action, dog on cat action. That's not some weird porn film. He looks scared.
It may feel toy-like, but it doesn't toy around when it comes to image quality.
Ah, this is nice.
It's no slouch, and it renders things with excellent detail and low distortion.
And that's why they call it the Nifty 50.
But now, Nikon has decided to stir things up by bringing out this new version. It's done away with the aperturing and it's now an AFS lens with internal quiet focus.
Well, the first thing you notice about this lens is that it's incredibly quiet when focusing, and that's because it's an AFS lens.
With the 1.8G, silence really is bliss.
But it's all too easy to think that the focus is quicker, but it's actually not quicker than the old one. It's just that you can't hear it. It's like when the dentist is drilling a hole in your teeth. If there was no noise, you'd think, oh, that was quick.
The plastics are much tougher feeling, and it's generally fatter than before, along with a fatter 58mm filter size.
But inside is not a whole load of hot air because it's been redesigned optically. It's got a spherical element, so it should be quite good.
Even Nikon's 50mm 1.4G doesn't have a spherical element inside. But how does it compare with the old one? First impressions, the bokeh with the new one is dreamier, creamier, chunky cheese.
With the old one, the kid's burger glows like some kind of saintly junk food. Another thing worth noting is that even though they both have 7 aperture blades, the ones on the 1.8G are more rounded, so that the bokeh balls stay more circular, even up to f4. Whereas with the 1.8D, even at f2.8, things start looking like those polygon graphics from the Super Nintendo game.
If you did that in England, you'd be called a pedo. So for this bokeh test, I need some help. Can you give us a hand? This is the new 1.8G.
A closer look at a bokeh, and a G is simply smoother. It's like the Roger Moore of bokeh.
The great thing about this is that now you can use it on the D3100 and D5100. You couldn't use the 1.8D because it's motor driven.
The ironic thing is that even though the 1.8D is a cheaper lens, you couldn't use it with the cheaper DSLRs from Nikon. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Bloody hell, I really have to get half into the sea like this. And it's good that as I'm taking photos of guys' arses, I'm also sticking my front bit out. Like I want to prod them. Poke their bottoms with my penis. So, get it ready.
The G is great for shooting wide open.
This really does encourage you to shoot at 1.8 all the time. In fact, they might as well just take away all the aperture blades, let you shoot at 1.8. But of course, there has to be a catch. With new improvements comes a new price. And of course, you pay quite a bit more for the 1.8G.
A very major factor in purchasing the previous 1.8D was the price. It offered the goods at a very acceptable price. The G is a distinct departure from this winning formula. But what they have now is a staggeringly good 50 for a little bit more. It performs better throughout the frame than a D, and better in terms of bokeh, and is better corrected. Both are still good choices. It just depends on how much you're willing to spend.